Hey, freaks and friends, welcome to day 21 of the Dirty One Days of October. The daily content continues with the 45 years of Halloween celebration. Today we are going to be doing another ranking. This one holds a special place in all of our hearts. Got our toes in the sand, and some other words that David Lee once said that I don't recall off the top of my head. But we're taking a look at the final girls in the Halloween franchise. Let's go. Make sure to stab that subscribe button and slash that bell icon so you don't miss out on this daily Halloween content all through the month of October. So throughout the Halloween franchise, there have been many different girls to make it to the end of the film. Some, I think, are more deserving of the final girl title than others. There are instances where there has been more than one, and usually in a horror film, especially a slasher film, there's usually one who is designated to that. There are a couple instances, though, in Halloween where I feel like the title can apply to more than one of them. And in that case, I did decide to throw in some honorable mentions because there are some that are more or less kinda final girls. So that's kind of the little caveat of this one. Let's get into this, starting off with the honorable mentions. So first honorable mention I have right here is going to be Molly from Halloween H2O. She kind of plays that lead girl kind of character, but she doesn't have a whole lot personality-wise to really go off of throughout the film. But she's memorable enough, so Molly from H2O going right here. We also have Danielle Harris playing Annie in Rob Zombie's first Halloween, and this is mostly because she survives and makes her way into the next film. And I think that Danielle Harris has a legacy all her own within the Halloween franchise where she will deserve this spot even if she is going to be in the ranking proper. We also have Lindsay Wallace played by Kyle Richards. This was kind of a tough one because not only is she a survivor in more than one continuity, she survives as a child and as an adult from the attacks of Michael Myers. Appears in 3 different films throughout the franchise, but aside from her toe-to-toe battle with Myers in Halloween Kills, she doesn't really do a whole lot to really get the final girl proper ranking, but it would be a crime to not put her in at least the honorable mentions here. So Kyle Richards, you've got a spot here. This is another one that might be a little bit contentious. That's going to be Judy Greer as Karen in Halloween 2018. Of course, we saw what happened to her in Halloween Kills, so that kind of ixnays her off the list here. She definitely gets a spot on this list. Almost put her in the ranking proper, but it just didn't work out. Here's one that might be the most contentious here. That's going to be Tina from Halloween 5, where she was given the sort of de facto final girl stance in Halloween 5 after Rachel's killed. She ends up sort of being the character that we follow for a little bit before she dies, but it's because of the way in which she dies, more or less protecting Jamie, that she earns her spot here. So Tina, I love you, you get this spot. And here's one that almost doesn't fit into the grand scheme of final girl for the Halloween franchise, but because it is part of the franchise, she does sort of deserve a little spot here in the honorable mentions. That's going to be Ellie Grimbridge from Halloween 3. Whether or not she was an android through the whole film, I can't say, but she was in the film just long enough, even if she was sort of relegated to a damsel in distress sort of level there, kind of like a Bond girl. I think she still sort of deserves at least an honorable mention here. So Ellie Grimbridge, you're part of the list, baby girl. And the last honorable mention is going to be Marion Chambers. Only because this woman has been in just about every damn continuity we have. She makes it through the first film, kind of, like she only appears in one scene, but she comes back in the second film, survives, and it's like, oh my god, you have survived a Halloween sequel. We didn't realize how lucky she was then. She comes back in H2O, killed immediately, comes back in Halloween Kills, gets some time to pal around in Haddonfield, killed relatively quickly, but she's like the OG near final girl in this franchise, so I had to give her a shout out here. Let's get to the proper ranking. Breaking into the 6th spot proper, The first entry on our list is going to be Sarah from Halloween Resurrection. You guys saw in the video where I was saying that there's not a whole lot about her that really stands out. I mean, she's got that "you bastard" scene. She's got some of those reservations that we see in Final Girls typically in some of those 80s slashers. She looks good, but she's pretty thin as far as personality goes. Much like a lot of other characters in that film, a lot of the personality just doesn't really get a chance to shine through. You can see that they were trying to write a somewhat fun character, but it didn't come to fruition. But she's still here, but she is at the bottom of the proper list. Coming in at number 5, this one might ruffle some feathers. You guys know that this was one I did not really grow up with like a lot of y'all. That's going to be Rachel Carruthers from Halloween 4. I know. Sorry. I like Rachel, I really do, but I don't have that fond memory of her being my babysitter, my final girl. But you can't deny her badassery, especially when it comes to protecting Jamie on the rooftop chase, running Myers down in Earl's truck, becoming whatever the fuck they decided to do with her in Halloween 5. But I really do like her, don't get me wrong. It just so happens that I think the 4 in front of her are either more enjoyable or just work a little bit better for me. But that's not to take anything away from Rachel as a character. Well, coming in at number 4, this is probably where my last option is going to piss some people off. That's going to be my girl Kara from Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. I almost feel this is too low for her, but trying to look at this from a little bit of a, we'll call it objective. Looking at it objectively, Kara Strode I think is interesting in that up to the point where she was introduced in the franchise, she is one of the most unique of the Final Girls, where she is a single mother, she has a child of her own that she's trying to protect. She's not just a babysitter trying to keep the kids safe from the boogeyman. And of course this was the first Halloween that I saw, so naturally there's going to be that little bit of bias there. And you saw my Halloween 6 review. She's freaking hot. So what's not to like about Kara Strode? But she definitely gets my pick for number 4. I almost put her higher, but reason prevailed. Coming in at number 3, this might be the salvation pick for me. That's going to prevent a lot of people from wanting to say, hey, this guy doesn't know shit what he's talking about. It's going to be Jamie Lloyd here at number 3. And namely the Halloween 4 and Halloween 5 interpretation. But especially for the Halloween 5 is where I feel like Jamie gets that little push up just a little bit. Again, when I was talking about Halloween 5 and talking about how she had to sort of carry that film on her own for the most part as far as her character goes, when you consider just how haphazardly that film was handled, we're not going to talk about all that, but when you consider just the amount of acting chops that Danielle Harris had in the making of this film, that definitely elevates the character. Her sort of iconography within the franchise is not to be understated. Of course, her character is the daughter of Laurie Strode, the OG Halloween Final Girl. So she definitely gets some credibility there. And again, just the age of Danielle Harris when she played this character and the way she was able to display a lot of these emotions that I have personally felt that not a lot of adult actors were able to capture in the 80s slasher films. I think she more than deserves a spot in the top 3. Breaking in at number 2, that's going to be my girl Allison from the David Gordon Green Blumhouse trilogy of Halloween films. I think Andi Matichak played a pretty solid final girl. She definitely, I think being that her character is sort of around the same age as I am, at least the actress is, whatnot, I feel like there is sort of that, okay, there's a little bit more of a generational connectivity there, which sort of makes me feel a little more for her there. You know, I think that her as the granddaughter of Laurie Strode definitely makes her an interesting character. It's nice to see a relative of Laurie Strode that is not also related to Michael Myers also, but we'll talk more about how all that twist and the removal of it worked out for me. But she's an interesting character who does get some nice development over the 3 films. Again, say what you will about the writing, I liked Allison. She's a character that I would like to see in the future in some sort of Elseworld Halloween films. Like if there's a Halloween spinoff where you guys saw the Day 13 video where Chris and I were talking. I don't think either one of us would mind seeing more of Allison. And I'm sure there's other Halloween fans out there that would like to see more of her. Let me know your thoughts on Allison, guys. Fucking love that girl. Let me know down below. But coming in at number 1, I almost didn't want to put this one at number 1, but looking at the films and the quantity of films and the quality of some of those films, I couldn't put her anywhere else but number 1. That's going to be Laurie Strode. And this isn't just relegated to the Jamie Lee Curtis 78, but it's taking into consideration Halloween 2, Halloween H2O. We're not looking at Resurrection here because fuck that. Sarah already got the call out there. We're looking at Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2, and even her contribution to the Blumhouse trilogy. All that has to be considered here. And honestly, it might be a lot of what Scout Taylor Compton did in Halloween 2 by Rob Zombie that really brings her up. Also, the Halloween H2O arc, I think, is a good spot for Laurie. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of that film, but I can't take away her arc in that, where it's probably the strongest her character appears throughout the franchise. I kind of like where they went with her in the Blumhouse trilogy, but in the 5 years since that film has come out and that trilogy started, the dust has settled and I've had time to reevaluate it. Do I feel any different about the way she's been handled there? You're gonna have to tune in and find out. But no, Laurie Strode is the Scream Queen. I mean, when we talk about Scream Queen titles, love her or hate her, Jamie Lee Curtis's name is one that's going to pop up regardless. That's why she definitely more than earns the spot here. And even if we did take away the Laurie Strode character, we got Prom Night to look at, Terror Train to look at. She more than earns her spot here, even if she was a little bit of a boring character in the first film. What she does in those first 2 films, I've said it throughout this whole month, sort of helped to dictate and guide the direction of the franchise for 40 years to follow. It can't be anybody else but Laurie Strode. And we're talking importance, performances, just all that stuff sort of bundled together gives her more than enough credibility to be here in the top spot. So that was my breakdown of the final girls in the Halloween franchise and near final girls. Let me know down below, guys, did you agree with that list? Would you move any of them around? Would you take any of the honorable mentions and put them in the list proper? All the same, let me know what you guys thought down below. Wanted to say thank you guys to everyone who's been coming to these every day throughout the month of October, whether you're coming in when they come out or after the fact. Thank you guys. Be sure to play with the little icons, slash that bell so you don't miss out on this daily content all through the month of October. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Woo!